Russia didn't just build tanks, it built an entire philosophy of armored warfare. From World War I experiments to Cold War steel monsters, some were unstoppable, some were disasters, but every single one left its mark on history. This is every Russian tank ever made. Imperial Russia, Soviet era. Zvezdokhod 1914. The Zvezdokhod was one of the earliest attempts at a tracked fighting vehicle in the world. Designed before tanks even reached the battlefield, it used a single continuous rubber track wrapped around the hull, allowing it to climb trenches and obstacles. It carried light machine guns and thin armor, but steering and stability were serious problems. It proved that Russia was already thinking about armored warfare before World War I reshaped military doctrine. Tsar tank. The Tsar tank was one of the strangest armored vehicles ever built. Instead of tracks, it relied on two massive front wheels over 9 meters tall, designed to roll over trenches and obstacles. Armed with machine guns and protected by armor, it looked unstoppable on paper. The project was abandoned, proving that sheer size could be a fatal flaw. Rybinsk tank. The Rybinsk tank was a crude but practical attempt to convert agricultural machinery into armored vehicles. Built on a tractor chassis, it offered basic armor protection and machine gun armament. Mobility was poor, and its slow speed made it vulnerable even by early war standards. It represented Russia's early struggle to rapidly mechanize under wartime pressure with limited industrial resources. Mendeleev tank. The Mendeleev tank was a visionary super-heavy design far ahead of its time. It featured extremely thick armor, naval-style guns, and a low, well-protected profile. The tank was designed to withstand direct artillery hits and break fortified defenses. However, its enormous weight made it completely impractical for early 20th century engines and infrastructure. Early Soviet era. T-12. The T-12 was one of the Soviet Union's first attempts to design an indigenous medium tank. It featured a fully rotating turret and a relatively powerful gun for its era. Unfortunately, the suspension was unreliable, the engine underpowered, and production quality inconsistent. Trials revealed constant mechanical failures, leading to cancellation. Still, the T-12 laid the groundwork for Soviet tank manufacturing and crew training programs. T-24. The T-24 was a larger and more ambitious evolution of the T-12. It offered thicker armor, a more powerful gun, and improved crew layout. However, it inherited many of the same mechanical problems while adding new production challenges. Only a small number were built before the project was abandoned. The T-24 showed that Soviet designers were aiming higher, even if industry had not yet caught up. T-18 MS-1. The T-18 was the Soviet Union's first mass-produced tank. Lightly armored and armed with a small cannon, it was primarily designed for infantry support and internal security. Though obsolete by the 1930s, it provided invaluable experience in training crews, maintaining armored vehicles, and organizing tank units. The T-18 marked the true beginning of Soviet armored forces as an operational military branch. Interwar experiments. T-19. The T-19 was intended to replace the T-18 with better armor, speed, and firepower. It incorporated more advanced suspension and a modernized turret design. However, the tank proved too complex and expensive compared to foreign designs available at the time. T-20 Komsomolets. Although not a true tank, the T-20 Komsomolets played a critical battlefield role. It was an armored artillery tractor capable of towing anti-tank guns under fire. Light armor protected the crew from small arms, but it remained vulnerable to artillery and aircraft. The Komsomolets proved highly reliable and became a backbone of Soviet logistics during the early years of World War II. T-26. The T-26 became the most important Soviet tank of the 1930s. Based on a British Vickers design, it was simple, reliable, and easy to mass-produce. Armed with a 45mm gun, it was effective against infantry and light armor early on. However, thin armor made it extremely vulnerable later in World War II. Despite this, the T-26 played a massive role in shaping Soviet armor doctrine. BT Fast Tank Series. The BT-2 was designed for speed above all else. Using Christie suspension, it could operate on both tracks and wheels. Armed with a light cannon, it emphasized mobility and deep penetration tactics. While extremely fast, its thin armor made it fragile in combat. The BT-2 proved the Soviet obsession with maneuver warfare during the interwar period. The BT-5 improved reliability and firepower while maintaining extreme speed. It performed well in early conflicts like Kok and GOL, where mobility proved decisive. However, battlefield experience showed that speed alone could not compensate for poor protection. Lessons learned directly influenced the next generation of Soviet tanks. The BT-7 was the most refined of the BT series. Faster, better armed, and more reliable, it served as the direct ancestor of the T-34. Combat experience revealed its vulnerabilities, but also validated the combination of speed, sloped armor concepts, and firepower that would soon revolutionize tank warfare. The BT-7A was a close support variant mounting a larger gun for infantry fire support. While powerful, the recoil and limited protection made it less versatile. Production remained limited, but it showed Soviet interest in specialized battlefield roles even within fast tank formations. Amphibious tanks. T-37A. The T-37A was a tiny amphibious reconnaissance tank capable of swimming across rivers. Lightly armed and armored, it was never meant for frontline combat. Instead, it excelled at scouting, communications, and flanking maneuvers. In practice, it proved extremely vulnerable, but it established Soviet expertise in amphibious vehicle design. T-38. The T-38 improved stability and water performance over the T-37A. While still lightly protected, it handled rivers and marshes better. Combat experience showed its limitations, but it remained valuable for reconnaissance and support roles early in the war. T-40. The T-40 was the most capable Soviet amphibious tank of World War II. Better armed and slightly better protected, it was still no match for enemy tanks. However, it played an important role during the chaotic early months of the German invasion. Multi-turret and heavy PRE war. T-28. The T-28 featured multiple turrets and strong firepower for its time. Designed for breakthrough operations, it offered good crew comfort but suffered from complex maintenance requirements. While impressive on paper, combat revealed its vulnerability to modern anti-tank weapons. T-35. The T-35 was a massive 5-turret heavy tank designed to overwhelm defenses through sheer firepower. In reality, mechanical failures destroyed most T-35s before they even reached Comte. The Russian T-35 was one of the most unusual tanks ever built, designed in the 1930s as a symbol of Soviet industrial and military power. It was a massive multi-turreted heavy tank, featuring 5 turrets armed with a combination of cannons and machine guns, allowing it to engage multiple targets at once. At the time, the T-35 looked terrifying on paper, intended to break through enemy defenses and support infantry advances. However, its enormous size made it slow, mechanically unreliable, and difficult to maneuver, especially off-roads. During the early stages of World War II, most T-35s were lost due to breakdowns rather than enemy fire, exposing the flaws of multi-turret tank designs. Despite its poor combat performance, the T-35 remains an iconic example of early tank experimentation and a lesson in how battlefield reality can differ greatly from ambitious military concepts.